Hey, kids. You're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast. Prepare for the SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? I am Joe. This is the SML Podcast. I'm doing something a little different today. Normally, I jump into showtime, and I'm like, come on, everyone, let's do a show. Today, I'm just doing the show, and then I'm going to jump into showtime, and we'll be live, and we'll see what happens. So
it's just reset, what with me moving and everything. What up, Joe?
We are live. The show's recording. Aki, Chris, Brooke, how's everyone doing?
Yo, what up? A lot better than last week. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good myself.
Sweet.
The fuck are we already recording for? What the hell?
Because I feel
That's
like
not
it.
normal.
No, it's not normal. I'm doing something different today.
But
nothing
abnormal.
What do you think of that? What do you fucking think of that?
I don't
what
like
do you fucking
that.
think?
I legitimately, that bothers me.
Well, you know what? You're not even on the episode tonight, so yeah.
Where's Pernell? He is. That's a problem.
He'll be here in 2 minutes. And Andy will be here in a few minutes too. So whatever, they'll show up a few minutes into the show. I just figure instead of trying to corral everyone, we'll just start talking right off the bat.
Hey, that sounds great.
Hey, when I got here,
everyone's
people
like,
were talking.
Yeah, because normally when I join, you're like, oh, why didn't you record all that? I'm like, well, now I am. So
yeah, always record it. I think that's.
For the record, I never recommend recording.
I think we should just stop recording every week. Let's just.
Yeah, this should be a live only experience. Like a Tool show.
No record.
Wow.
You'd only record the last review on every episode.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, we'll do a best of final reviews.
Yeah, the
Get a
problem with
selfie with the audience.
Having
a third of them will be porn.
Review, exactly. I was about to say, the problem with only having the last one is I do so many adult games that would be like a third or more of the reviews.
Which is funny because generally the game order tends to go like most expensive to least expensive game. So it's going to be like, all the $1.99, $2.99 little reviews. Yeah, I mean, I'm for it.
The way God intended, an episode of $2.99 games.
Hey, cool. That's awesome.
And then you hit like the $30 porn game. Yeah.
And the $30 porn game.
And on that note, here's Andy. What up?
Andy Sperry, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
What's up, my friends?
What up? What up?
You're
What
here
up, what
before
up?
Pernell. Look at that shit.
Actually, I'm right on time. It's 6 o'clock.
Oh, nice. I joined early.
Still has a little bit before Pernell's late.
Yeah, like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That still counts.
Clock is running. The heat is on. We are coming down to the wire. Will Pernell join before the clock
Or is
turns
he pulling a
9:01?
Jacob?
Well, not everyone pulls a Jacob before the show.
He's pulling a Jacob.
Wow. This
Dude, what a
is
great song, too.
This is
It
always
about
how I
1 minute
spend my
after.
last minute at work. Watching the clock. Being like, is somebody going to call?
You're late,
Oh,
Pernell.
Well, there he is.
Yay, Pernell's here. Pernell Vaughan, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
You're on speakerphone, but we're live.
Oh, that's
We are live and you're late.
Live and late, dude.
I'm not late 'cause I'm here. I'm always on time.
No, you're a minute late today.
No, I'm on time because that's when I showed up.
He's got us
You
there.
argue like my kids do. Nope, I'm right.
I'm not
I'm
late.
right.
I just got
I'm
here.
Yep, there it is.
How's everybody doing?
Oh, was it tired but good?
Oh, no.
Eating leftover dry pot from Thursday, so if I run off to the bathroom, you know why. Because I
Right,
shouldn't
very
eat
cool.
food that old. Also,
What is it,
trying
a
to get
prune
back-
pie or something?
no,
Yeah,
dry pot. So like
Some
lotus
lotus
fruit,
Yeah, I love that.
Whoa, that was weirdly timed. Yes,
I know.
Lotus
Why
Root.
is that the first ingredient we both thought of? Because that's not the main ingredient of Hot Pot, but it's the best part. That crispy,
It's like the
spicy
best
root.
ingredient. Yes, it
Oh my
is.
God.
I love Lotus Root.
I have
And the
no
thing is-
idea what you two are talking about. The
Me
fuck
neither,
at
but
all.
I'm
What is it?
fascinated.
Is it Szechuan food? I don't even know, Pernell. It's some kind of Chinese food.
Oh, it's Szechuan. Oh, it's Szechuan. You nailed it.
So good. It's like very spicy, crispy. What
Ooh.
Pernell's talking about is like there's hot pot, but then there's also dry pot where it's like not a soup, but it's I don't really know how to describe it. I get it in a big to go tin
The
foil
best way
thing.
to, I figured the best way to put it, because I don't know how they do the dry pie. I assume it's a form of stir fry of sorts, but talking Szechuan peppercorns, a variety of chilies, spices, literal spices, because I couldn't tell you what spices are being used. The exception possibly being Star. I know Star is usually using this stuff. But then it's all tossed together, throw it into you, you eat it, your mouth goes numb, but god damn are you happy it did because it tastes that good.
Damn.
So
Sounds
good.
pretty cool.
Vegetables.
Highly recommend.
Wholeheartedly. My friend was visiting. We went and found a damn dry pot spot up in Philadelphia. It was worth it.
I had never heard of dry pot or lotus root before I came out here to California. I don't know what's up with that or if they have stuff like that in Texas or not, and I just missed it.
They may, and if they don't, somebody's got a fortune just sitting there waiting for them to make it.
I know.
Like there was like a video I saw, like one of those Guy Fieri things. You know, he's like a food critic / visitor. I don't know how you would describe it. Anyway, he was talking to a family in like Minnesota, and they moved there from New York to bring their style of cooking there. They are the only game in town, and people were losing their shit over it. So it's like, well, all the money's coming to us because nobody's taking a shot at this. They're getting like steak sandwiches or whatever out there. And then these guys show up with spices and herbs. Like, wait a minute. People use their shakers that
They
aren't
showed
salt
up
and
with
pepper.
food.
They have like actual food that's prepped with actual spices. They don't use just salt and pepper. They use other shit, and people didn't know how to handle it, except for with their money because they buy
Salt
the food.
and pepper isn't a spice as far as I'm concerned.
they do their thing. They ain't the real deal. It gets to a point where you're like, why do I even bother with this? I can do this. Like salt, for example, I only use it as a cooking ingredient. I don't put salt on my food anymore. I haven't done it for years. Might seem crazy.
I haven't put salt in anything in over a decade and a half. For any reason.
I have a jar
Salt
of
is
that
so
Red
pointless.
Robin seasoning on my desk when I get bland hamburgers.
What is that?
Oh boy.
Red Robin, it's a hamburger chain, and they have
no the spice.
Yeah, what's in it?
I don't fucking know. Just
It says on the bottle. It's like
salt,
I know it's like a
sugar, sea salt, spices, dehydrated vegetables, garlic, onion. Can't read that one. My eyes are going. Jesus Christ, you're really pushing me tonight.
You're ancient.
I can't do this. My eyes are.
Time to get some glasses. Join the rest of us. Get some glasses.
I need some readers.
I would feel bad for you, Joe, but I'm blind, so you ain't getting any fucking sympathy from me. Fuck you.
I'm just about 43, and I've never had glasses, so I've had a good life visually. So I could handle that. I need readers.
What age were your first glasses?
I couldn't even tell you. I just knew I was very blind at some point. Like, it's a scary thought to be like, I have like nightmares every once in a while. I remember myself just like losing my vision or something. It was a very strange vibe. Like I was a kid. I know one day I could see well, and then one day I couldn't. And it was why is my child unable to see? Get this fucker some glasses. Yeah. It's a scary thing. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if you're like born like blind pretty much as an infant or something, and you're pretty much wearing specs from the very beginning, it's like, well, maybe you don't remember so much. But it's another thing where you kind of grow into the blindness. Suddenly you're like, oh shit,
that's wild.
This is awkward. But how about yourself? Do you remember?
Too, by the way,
yeah,
you don't wear glasses. You wear contacts, huh?
No, I wear glasses most of the time. I'll take them off for pictures, but I'm in glasses probably 95% of the time when I'm at work. I've got astigmatism. I'm super.
We need more pictures of you in glasses. You look adorable in glasses.
When did you start wearing them?
I was 7. I remember I just couldn't see anything on the chalkboard, and that's when people started figuring it out. They're like, "Oh, she can't see for shit." So I had them my whole life. I remember you couldn't get contacts without paying like $200 back in the day if you had astigmatism. So I never really got used to that. I'm still rocking the glasses. So
I tried to do contacts once, and it just didn't take. Like something about them just didn't feel comfortable. So I just
people
went
tell
back.
me you get used to them, but it does seem like a steep learning curve. Pretty weird.
Just
what about
Ashley
my
Andy?
fingers in my eyes.
Ashley needed to get LASIK just to be able to wear contacts.
Whoa!
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, like her vision was too bad that she couldn't get contacts until she got LASIK, and now she's able to wear contacts.
I want to get LASIK, but I'm also scared to death of it. How
I've
long
seen
was her
Final
recovery
Destination.
time?
Like lasers in your eyes. Yeah, that's scary.
My grandpa got LASIK back when it first came out, and he lost color vision in his eye.
Oh my god!
He was also the head technician of Circuit City before it went under.
Whoa!
And he had it done back while he was still working, so that did not help him at his job at all. My mom's also had LASIK, but she had it much more recently, and she's fine. Everything's been good for her. So,
early adopters beware.
yeah. Never be in the first group because y'all are
pioneer.
just the test subjects.
It's true.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah,
really
Andy,
kind
what
of
about you?
afraid of-
Any glasses?
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah, Andy. Sorry.
I think I got glasses in middle school, maybe.
Oh, nice.
I just did not enjoy being a kid with glasses, so I just refused to wear them.
I feel that.
I actually found some glasses of mine the other day that were prescription, and I tried them on, and my eyes just would not adjust. I freaked out a little bit, so I just kind of coast through it. Sometimes people are blobs, and I'm like, yeah, that blob is that person, and that blob is that person. I'm good.
Well, the reason why the glasses don't work anymore is because as you grow up, if you're not wearing glasses, you learn to focus differently than someone who can see well, which means that the parts of your eyes that actually focus your eye changes where it is because of how you use your eyes. Whereas glasses have it looking straight forward, you've probably learned to squint your eyes and look down the corner, so now that the corner is where your focus point is instead, which makes glasses completely pointless.
Oh, 100%.
I know, because that's where mine are.
I squint constantly, and it's funny when people catch me too, and they're like, hey, do you need glasses? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Get away from
me. No, you definitely need them. They just aren't going to help you none. Yeah.
I can see. I know who that blob is.
I'm lucky no one knows when I'm squinting because my eyes are already so damn small no one can tell.
I'm the same. I have very squinty eyes.
You do.
I would have typing class, and you weren't allowed to look down at your keyboard in typing class, but my eyes were so squinty, the teacher couldn't tell I was peeking when I typed.
All these years later, it comes out.
Yes, the truth is.
She's listening right now.
I can close my eye a quarter of the way, and people think they're shut completely. So,
look on camera. Look on camera. Seriously, look at me.
I was thinking that
camera.
earlier too. It's like you're like Brock from Pokemon.
Yeah.
I could still see.
If there was a haze of smoke, I would assume you're really high.
You would assume.
Granted, I could still assume that.
Maybe he is. Yeah.
You have cheeched and chonged your whole day away.
Me?
Yes, you.
Joe, you have beautiful squinty eyes.
Thank you.
What color are those? Black?
Brown.
Can't tell. Brown.
Brown eye, yeah.
All over town.
My eyes are not solid black. That would be amazing.
I don't know. I can't tell.
Solid black orbs.
I don't know. I watch Supernatural, but tell me a lot about you.
I will eat your soul.
What is everyone's eye color? Because now I'm interested.
Brown, black,
Pretty sure.
solid black.
Pretty sure mine is just brown. Red.
Purple.
Ooh, jealous.
Hazel.
Aki, what are yours?
Steel blue.
Ooh, very cool.
The funny thing is, she can say anything she fucking wants because I have yet to see a picture of her. She's been a part of this show for 8 years. No clue what you look like.
7 or 8, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Hey, you
That
gotta
needs to
Not,
change because that means
not
somebody
a goddamn clue what you look
that means
like.
somebody can impersonate her. That would
Have
be
I not
interesting.
sent a picture in? I
No.
could have swore I sent my
No,
high school
you've told me your
graduation or
last
something
name,
photo?
which I can't remember for the life of me because it's huge and very hard
Yeah.
to pronounce.
Yeah. But my first name is long and hard to pronounce too, so
Yeah, so we just went with Aki and it worked.
yep.
Wait, that's not your name?
That's the first 3
What?
letters of my name.
Should we take like a group
Dalton.
photo or something?
Like sneaky.
Yeah, go to
like, we
VGM
know-
Con. Go to
That
VGM
means
Con
we
in
literally
April.
know nothing about you. Know nothing about you. We don't even know your name.
Are you even
Yeah,
real?
I'm a real
I've
person.
said my full name on podcast before.
I wasn't here. I don't know your name. I don't know you. Who are you?
Where
Danger,
am I?
danger. Pernell, get behind me. I'll protect you.
Please do, because I am scared right now.
Aki's dangerous.
Very exceptionally, yes, this is true.
I am the scared.
Oh my
I can't
lord.
imagine going a whole this long not even knowing names. Like that's like if I tell everybody, call me,
I mean,
call me
you don't-
Pern.
Oh, I have to imagine it. You don't know mine, apparently.
No, that's what I'm
I
saying.
specifically
Imagine.
remember asking you when you first started working with the show what you wanted to be credited as because I didn't want to put Dark Mika is on fire for your reviews. Because
And
I
I
like
just said,
using
Aki, that's so much easier.
yeah, I like using like our names on the show. That's why I credit everyone by name so that, you know, this will haunt you forever. But I asked your name and you told me and I'm like, oh no. I can't be expected to remember how to spell that on a weekly basis.
For
Aki
the
is typing. Drum roll,
for the
please.
people in the Showtime, here's how this is my name. There you go.
You could just say it verbally.
Nope, you got to read it. You got to read
No,
it.
someone
because it's
can read
more
it to
fun to
me.
hear you guys butcher it, to be honest.
It's a
If any of you can
mystery
pronounce
to
my
all.
first name on its own, I will be you will be my favorite if you can pronounce that whole first name
Should we
properly.
use try it?
Akikiotodo.
Akihiko.
Aki.
No,
Akikiotodo.
Akikiotodo?
close. There we go.
Akikiotodo. Nice. Okay, I was trying to read that KYO instead of KIO. Okay, that's
Yeah,
Your
awesome.
name is so your name is Akikiotodo.
Akikiotodo.
Okay, I can dig that. That's a cool, unique name.
I can't get the last name though. That one's ridiculous.
I'm amazed you got the first name because that is a very in English. That is for English speaking people. That is very difficult
Is it?
to pronounce
Also-
just because of how many vowels there are in it.
Also, I
Hence,
think of
it's just
Taito
Aki.
now. Now I can go Akikiotodo. Taito. There you go. That's how I'm going to remember your name. Akikiotodo Taito. Just like
Yeah.
your
Copy this, and
arcade
I'm going to credit you by your full name in this episode's write-up.
Bushitakagi?
Amazing.
Bushitakagi.
Akikiotodo
Okay.
Takagi.
I'm learning.
Bushitakagi.
Close enough. We'll just, it's close enough. You were close enough.
Yeah, Aki,
This is the hardest
what's
thing I've
going
done all
on?
There we go. Yeah.
Staring
Aki's
at it.
so much easier. That's why I go by Aki.
Well,
He probably
I do not
laughed at
fault
me when
any
I.
of you.
I'm sure you
Wait,
laughed at me when I was like, "Oh, I don't want to butcher her name all the time," and now you fucking see it. And you-
What is your name's
Yeah.
origins though?
It's Japanese.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to assume.
That's why Chris
there's-
can pronounce it.
There's so many fucking vowels in it that it's very difficult for a lot of people to pronounce. Whose main language is
Bushitakagi.
English. Close enough.
Yeah, that works.
So hence I just tend to go by Aki because it's 3 letters, 2 syllables. It makes life easier,
That's awesome.
and I still get people who get that wrong. So so many people who go ack
What's the worst one you've heard? What's the worst pronunciation?
for just the 3 letters
Any
or for the
Yeah.
full thing.
Either way.
I usually people have a tendency to try and get to the correct when they see the full name, but none of them get it. Like about the worst that you guys did was about the worst they usually get for it.
I thought
Aki,
Andy got it.
I've had Aki a lot. As though someone's trying to cough up fucking
Is your
phlegm.
name Akikiotodo Bushitakagi?
That would be so much
Tackle.
better. Oh, that would be great. I would love that. Bush tackle. Yes.
Can you put his name on the podcast episode as Bush Tackle?
Bushitakagi.
That'd be great.
Bush tackle. Yeah,
Oh,
I sold.
Bush
God.
Tackle.
So what else do
It
people want to
wins.
talk about before we get into reviews?
I don't know, new Pokemon game that got announced, but with no footage or anything. But so I don't know.
There's
Pokemon.
nothing to talk about with that one.
Yeah.
Don't
Agree.
you would think until you go to the community, people have been speculating all kinds of shit. I don't know how they're doing it. Like they literally
But people
showed.
speculating doesn't mean anything. People speculate
Yeah.
things all the time. People
No, I mean,
speculate that the world is run by lizard people.
In this case, it's almost enough. Like people are already like, I'm not buying this game because of X. I'm like, they told you nothing. How can you already make a statement about a game and why you're not going to buy it, and you don't even know what the game is? It's
Here,
people strange.
I have speculations that are 100% correct. There's going to be 2 games that are going to be sold. They're going to be basically the same fucking game. The only difference is there's going to be a handful of Pokemon that are different between them, and that's it. Because that has
Actually, all
been
of
the
those are
same thing that
incorrect.
has been all of the games.
All of those are incorrect. That's the funniest part, though.
Don't
Everything you
believe
just
that
said is
at
incorrect.
all.
It's the truth, though. What you just said is incorrect about this game.
What, they're only selling one of them then? Or are they
It's
selling
one
more
game.
than 2?
It's just
Only one?
game. It's one game.
Only
game.
one. Is it a Pokemon
Only
Snap
one.
game?
No, it's not.
This is
The
a
New Legends
standard
one?
style Pokemon game.
Yes.
And there's only one of them.
That is correct.
They're lying.
That is surprising. That is.
Well,
It,
they're like
it
some
absorbed
mobile
its
stuff.
own twin in the womb.
Comes out a mutant Switch baby of like a double-sized cartridge.
I'm
actually both
games.
Play me. I thought they'd
Play
come
me
out
or
swinging,
kill me.
especially after like Power World, you know? It was like, dude, Power World comes out and everybody was hyped for that. And now it's like, meh, we're still
The thing
Pokemon.
Well, think about
Everyone called Power World a Pokemon clone, and it's not. It's a
not.
survival
Thank you.
game. It's
Thank
a
you.
fucking survival game. It is not like Pokemon. Yes, you can collect
Agreed.
monsters, but the base gameplay is not a cute casual JRPG. It's a survival
Agreed.
crafting game. Massive
No, but
difference.
yes.
Not Pokemon.
I just mean like how much like the Pokemon company, was like going after him for it too. You think
they
would go
they were
after it
going
and then
after
come out.
modders who put Pokemon in Power World. That's
Which
who
was so
Nintendo
awesome,
went
too.
after. Yeah, that's who
And the thing that
Nintendo
people
was.
Rad.
and the thing that the fans were saying they should go after them for, whether or not it's true or not, is that they were saying there was a lot of like assets from like Pokemon designs used in the PALs or whatever they're called. But that's a whole issue right there where it's like, it's not set in stone. It's just what people are seeing when they look at it. Whether or not it's true or not is up for debate. But yeah, the games are nothing alike. People were just like, wow, there's cute animals in this game and they've got guns. See, Pokemon, you suck. Like, it's like they just wanted an excuse to yell about it. Like, no, they're different games and they don't draw the same audience for the most part. So,
Like, aren't there
I bought Power
actual
World.
real like Pokemon clones out there that they could focus on instead of Power World?
like, there are some games that legitimately are pretty much Pokemon, except they decided to
I
change
know
a
one.
few
I know we
things, but they're not
reviewed
balls,
one
they're
that was
traps.
very similar.
Nixamon.
Yeah, Nexamon. That's the
Nexamon.
one.
It's literally Pokemon with traps instead of balls.
Yeah, online.
Yeah. And it's still a fun game, but it's like if they were going to go after somebody, it'd be something like that.
Timber
As
saying
far as,
Cassette
like-
Beast is another similar one. Temtem, I think might be the one I was talking about because I believe we
Yeah, it's like
reviewed that
generally
one
they
too.
always do something that's like slightly different, and it's enough that if you play Pokemon but want something different, it's like I'll play this one too. Like Tim, though it died over time, the online part of it, its main draw was that they went hard on doubles battles, and there's a lot of synergy that's involved with the different monsters battling together. Nexamon was like, I honestly don't know what set Nexamon apart, if anything. It literally was just, this is the game. And Cassette Beast is really cool. It has like this cool also synergy mechanic where like all the monsters confuse. Like every single one of them confuse into something special. If you get bonds up, and there's like questing and all kinds of cool shit. I love Cassette Beast, by the way.
I haven't played that one yet. It was on my wish list, but that'll be a story for Thursday. My Xbox wish list disappeared.
That's not kosher.
Anyway, we got reviews to talk about.
What?
We got games that we got to discuss.
We've got reviews to talk about. We've got reviews to talk about.
Y'all ready for this?
There we
go. All right, let's get to these. The first game to talk about tonight is Shiren the Wanderer, the Mystery Dungeon of Serpentcoil Island, developed and published by Spike Chunsoft, released February 27th. My mouse cursor was in the way on the Switch for $59.99. Shiren the Wanderer and Kappa, his talking ferret partner, received a vision of a distant land and a girl in distress. It led them to the mysterious Serpentcoil Island, but they're not alone. Chris, Pernell, both of you check this one out. Chris, how about you start? What's going on in Shiren the Wanderer, the Mystery Dungeon of Serpentcoil Island?
Oh, yeah. Well, Shiren the Wanderer, Serpentcoil, and et cetera. This is the latest in a long-running series of the Shiren the Wanderer games, which is, of course, the kind of like a very specific like style of roguelike developed by Spike Chunsoft. It goes all the way back to the Super Nintendo era, and I actually have that one. It was kind of a, I guess it was like kind of like a sequel to, basically they made a Dragon Quest roguelike back in the day, and then they were like, we need our own character to make a sequel. So, funny enough, the very first Shiren the Wanderer is actually Shiren 2. So, or rather, Mystery Dungeon 2, Shiren the Wanderer, or something like that. It's like, and this company has touched on like, everything from Final Fantasy. They, they did the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon to Pokemon. They did the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Like I said, and the Dragon Quest thing they've dipped into twice now. Well, actually, maybe a little bit more, but anyways, so that's your brief 30-year history of this series. So this is their newest offering. It is now in full 3D and not sprite-based 2D, like even their last adventure that came out on the Switch, which was the Tower of Fortune and the Dice of Fate. Which is a title I totally remembered and didn't just look on my Switch menu for right now.
They love long titles, don't they?
Yeah, it's pretty great. I'll get into that later. But well, I was just gonna say like the second Tornico game, Dragon Quest Mystery Dungeon. Tornico? What was the Tornico's Great Adventure? Yeah, which he wasn't called Tornico in Dragon Quest Knows. Tornico the Last Hope. So yeah, they didn't even call him that in English initially. He was just known as Talon over here. So it's like they didn't even bother to change the name when they released it on PlayStation in the United States. So needless to say, it's a somewhat obscure series. I think the way I discovered it was through the DS, which was basically a remake of the very first game, and I played that thing for hours. Didn't get too far in it though. I guess I did. I got like a bunch of like partners and stuff who would join me in certain runs and stuff, and so basically the general gameplay loop of this is that you are Shiren. You start off in a hub town. The hub town has a warehouse. And you go into the dungeon. The dungeon has several levels. Anytime you basically get through the levels and get to the next location, and you may get like a reprieve like halfway through, like another town or a camp or something like that. Basically a place to like rest for a second before getting back into the dungeon. Now the game is entirely turn-based. Every move that you make, every step. Yeah, never mind. Every move that you make, the enemies and the police are watching you. and they are also going to make a move. So while you can at any point just not move and completely write out your strategy, which you will need to do constantly, there's no point at which things are just moving without your say so. So yeah, the thing is entirely turn based. You have an inventory that you kind of pile up by grabbing stuff off the ground, everything from weapons, which you don't start with, to shields, to onigiri, to herbs and spices and pots, and you can put your herb in some pots and stuff, and all that's very important because, again, every tool that you find on the ground is essential to your survival in that run, or you drop them off, whether it be with an item or a certain NPC that you may randomly find walking around the dungeon, and you can have that stuff put in the warehouse so that the next time you die, or when you die, the next time you wake up, you can get to that warehouse and have a little bit of a better loadout this time. Because like a true roguelike, you start from complete scratch every single time, except that the story kind of moves on as you progress. So as you get further, more and more things kind of unlock in the dungeon, and you may find them. New NPCs, certain new things can happen. So there's an element of progress, but ultimately, yeah, you're always starting at level 1 with your same HP, no items unless you pick them up from the warehouse, and you're just trying to get to the top of the mountain and defeat the bad guy that is surely up there. So that's the general gist of it. I feel like I've talked for a while now.
All right, Pernell, what are your thoughts on the game? Any insight on your end?
Well, my feelings with this game are pretty interesting in the sense that they changed a few things from what I remember from the Dice of Fate. Some which might be good, some which might be bad. Overall, I think it's mostly just described as different, though. For example, I feel like in this one, I had a lot more difficulty getting my bearings and getting started on general runs, largely because they're not as generous with a few things. One is the idea of weaponry. It is very logically reasonable to believe that you can go a run and go like multiple sections at the beginning of the game without getting a sword and or a shield. And if that happens, well, you can kiss your grits goodbye because that's just the nature of the beast, which admittedly I respect because we've got a lot of roguelikes over the years, but I've always felt like Shiren the Wanderer has always done the best at remaining true to what a roguelike or closest to actual rogue you can get is, because you can have some real crappy runs in this game. They've also made it a lot harder to exit the dungeon and preserve your stuff. Like one of the old strats in the game was you used to be able to get basically a grab, maybe an undo grab, but basically you can escape the dungeon with it and take old equipment back to an earlier part of the game and then spend money at a blacksmith to upgrade it to kind of just cheat through it. Not in this one. You are going to be busting your ass all the way through, and you'll feel like it's more earned. One thing that should be mentioned in this game, too, that they go a long way with, it's been true for the whole series, but if you're not familiar with Shiren, you'll want to know, is one of the main components to these games that makes them particularly roguelike is the fact that you don't always know what you're picking up. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is a feature, baby. I'm okay with this. It just takes a while to get used to. And the older Shiren games, they didn't introduce this until at least the 5th one. They introduced this until a little further into the game, but from here it's the very beginning. And what that is items generally can be picked up with a designation of question mark or a rather nondescript labeling for it, like, I don't know, like salamander pot or, I don't know, red pot, just some random name.
Herb
and what
pot.
that means is herb pot, yeah. And you don't know what it does. It's just, here's a name for this thing. And if you decide to use it, it could actually be a bad thing. Like I remember picking up a pot, but I really needed to put items in it. So I thought, it's an unidentified, but chances are maybe I can put items in it and store my inventory. I tried to use the pot. It was a monster pot. I tapped it and the monsters came out of the pot and beat the stuffing out of me. There are ways around this, of course, but they also require you to find needed items to identify things. All major defining traits for this bad boy. Another thing worth mentioning, and I'll probably stop where I'm rambling about the game in a general sense, is that they decided to make a change to the game in regards to like the last one, if you played it on the Vita or the Switch, is they went ahead and got rid of the night and day cycle. And in exchange for that, they came up with something about like behemoths, where it's just like really giant monsters that'll come out sometimes, and they are jerks to kill. So rather than worry about the nightfall coming, which was its own, terrifying plight, instead now you have to worry about just like coming across giant monsters on your run. So be mindful of that. The games themselves, this game is still a lot of fun though. Like I like Shiren the Wanderer, every one of which I played, despite the fact that I know it is very possible that I won't see the end of any of it. I beat the fifth game. It was purely the fact that I even beat that game. I feel lucky. Like I got to the top with a good loadout, and I was pretty much down to the bottom of the barrel and won by sheer chance. And then that unlocked a meaty post game, which this one has as well. There is a good post game.
My Shiren cycle usually comes down to I see a new Shiren the Wanderer game, I get super excited, I buy it, I play it, die repeatedly, wonder why I bought it in the first place. Then I see a new one, I get excited for it, I buy it.
Sometimes the dying is a feature.
Every time I'm just like, again, I knew what I was getting into. I'm just a glutton for punishment. I love it. They're always quality games. They're just hard as shit.
Yeah. But that just makes the wins that much sweeter. You're like, wow, I accomplished some cool shit on this run.
So segueing from that, there is a little bit of a kind of sense of community, I suppose, that you could say, anonymous though it may be. This game features, like the last game, a rescue system. So if you got like a particularly good loadout, let's say you spent a long time crafting like this, nice sword that you managed to get back into the warehouse a couple of times, and it's like your favorite item, and you have like all this other good stuff, and then you eat it in the dungeon, you can actually either like just keep your character there and then rescue him with the next character, or you can have somebody rescue you online in exchange for adventurer points, essentially, which the adventurer points can be used to your benefit when it comes to rescuing or being rescued. And the other thing is that so if you want to like actually, because these things can help improve your loadout too. For instance, like you can spend a whole bunch of adventurer points to get a like 10 level boost at the beginning, which will super up your chances of like getting much further than you could before. So you're kind of like maybe paying for, saving up for a new game plus kind of thing. Well, I guess not new game plus since you didn't beat it. Quite the opposite, actually. But anyways, I'll work on that later. But yeah, the rescue system's actually pretty cool, and I actually did utilize it for this playthrough. I tried to rescue somebody just on the second level of the game, and the cool thing is about this, well, I don't guess it's cool, but it's just like the other thing is that, you start off with nothing, but the dungeon is fixed to that person's map. So the person who died in that dungeon, it saves that map, and you have to go through that exact same map to get to them. So if there was anything, on the ground or whatever, that you feel like maybe you can fare better, then you can certainly go for it. But of course, to rescue the person, you usually have to fight a party of monsters, so it's pretty extra challenging. But the cool thing is, even if you lose and die repeatedly on this simple mission to, go rescue some stranger, you'll still get the adventurer points. You just won't get the full amount of adventurer points. So there is an element where you can save up and get yourself a good loadout. And that's a way to kind of help yourself as well. So I feel like that's pretty clever on the game's part. It was present in the last game. I really didn't check it out too much in the last game. It didn't seem to be as much of a thing here, but in this game, they go out of their way to be like, hey, your character was kind of good. You sure you don't want to rescue him? And of course, you can also just attempt to rescue yourself too. That's certainly a thing you can do. But yeah, the when I was looking around at the different rescue lists and such, they all have a timer on them as well. So like if this person hasn't been rescued in 7 days or whatever, I guess it just goes away. But you can keep making attempts to rescue this person until you actually get them. So that's actually kind of cool, I think.
That is an awesome feature. I like that they have that online connectivity to it.
Yeah, and as far as I could tell, you don't know anything about this person. It's you're not. It's just like this person's lost on this level, and go if you want to go get them, it's worth this many points. There's a bounty to it. Plus, the thing about that though is that you cannot go to a place that you haven't been yet in the single player game. So if you're if you've only been to the Serpent Isles, for instance, which is the first set of stages in the game, you can only pick a rescue attempt that's also in the Serpent Isles.
That makes sense. That way you're not fighting up the things
exactly.
you can't handle. But the game is $60. What do the two you think about it?
Well, I got it for free, and though I've been trying to tell myself I'm done collecting games, I wanted the Shiren game, so I bought it anyway. So that answers your question.
I did buy the last Shiren game because I reviewed it on a different system than the Switch, but I mean, all of this to say, I would consider this a buy it for fans of Shiren, fans of the Mystery Dungeon series, and fans of just hard games and like roguelikes the way they ought to be, To me, this is roguelike par excellence, as far as
purest.
Yeah, I mean, but there's nothing wrong with things being impure. It's just like,
for sure,
it does have a real deal feel about it as far as that goes. So yeah, I'm gonna recommend it. I really, really like the look and the sounds of the new everything. The like new fancy 3D graphics are looking real good. Feels great to play. Like I said, I feel like even though it's less, fair, it's less generous. Although I would say it's about as fair as its older chapters. It at least felt to me like really clear. Like everything felt really spelled out, and and the game at least sympathizes with your plight in little ways. So yeah, I like this one a lot.
Cool. All right, next game, Penny's Big Breakaway, developed by Evening Star, published by Private Division, released February 21st on Xbox Series X and S, Switch, PS5, and PC for $29.99. Ready, set, yo! Penny and Yo-Yo in a kinetic 3D platformer bursting with innovative gameplay. Showcase your catalog of tricks and chain impressive combos to deliver Penny and Yo-Yo's perfect breakout performance. Take the stage with this vibrant pair in Penny's Big Breakaway, or I'm going to steal Brooke's joke with Perny's Big Breakaway. Pernell, tell us about it.
That sounds like a title to the show.
We already have Bush Tackle.
Oh,
come on. You're going to take that over Perny's Big Break? Oh, come on.
Okay, anyway, then I'll change it.
These are all good names.
But comparatively, there can only be one. And in the case of this game, let's see here. So basically, the premise of this game is you play as Penny, a person. Like classic 3D platformers, the old. There's very little setup here. It's just you are Penny. You have a yo-yo. You want to play with this yo-yo, and you want to be on the equivalent. This world's equivalent of, like, I don't know, what is it, like Dancing with the Stars, but whatever the talent version of that was. America's Got Talent. In this case, Vanilla Town's Got Talent. So you take your yo-yo and you go to the hopes of performing for being on the show, on the way, you come across a cosmic yo-yo, because of course you do, and it makes that your yo-yo is gets a life of its own, and it provides it with a lot more tricks than what you could do before. You go to the show, you perform, your yo-yo becomes sentient, it eats the emperor's clothes, and then you are put on the land because now the emperor wants to throw you in jail for 10,000 years. So you are on the run, hence the breakaway, though I also assume that's also because she still wants to become a star. Anyway, the gameplay of this is particularly interesting because from what I've come to learn, this was done by the guy who was responsible for Sonic Mania, and he's developed quite a bit of notoriety in the community, Christian Whitehead. So what I came to expect from this game off the top was that there was a bit of frenetic, momentum that you could get, come bring into play in this title. So, and more or less, I think it can, but it's going to come with a caveat. Level of progression involves you just going from the beginning of the level to the end of the level. And as you're doing so, you're attempting to, platform across the landscape of choice or whatever. Your platforming mechanics are essentially jumping, throwing your yo-yo, and through use of that yo-yo, you can do a ridiculous number of things for a platformer in this sense. You can throw it, you can hold it out in the air, and then it kind of becomes like a sort of like a swing mechanic. So you can kind of stay in the air for a little while and then launch yourself. You can ride the yo-yo, And it has a sort of spin dash level mechanic where you can hold it down and get a bit of a jolt and get a little extra oomph when you ride off with it. You can spin it around as a weapon, and there's a few other things you can get in the form of power-ups as well. But you'll be doing all these sorts of things to get from the end of the level. Sometimes you'll also come across inhabitants of these worlds where they will ask you for a ridiculously weird favor, like, I don't know, deliver this wrench to a coworker, or take this letter to my mom, or collect these flowers in 20 seconds or else I'm going to get divorced. Just stuff like that. And if you do enough of those during the level, you'll be able to use it at the end of the stage as a part of a bonus called busking bonus, where you can perform tricks and get bonus points before the level's up and adds to your final level score. Now, the interesting thing about this game that makes it different from a lot of 3D platforms, aside from the yo-yo mechanic, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few, is the fact that there aren't really any enemies in this game. In fact, the only real enemies in the game are the penguins that the Emperor sends after you to throw you in jail. And they don't outright kill you. Instead, what happens is every once in a while you'll come across a segment of the stage where a bunch of ridiculous, dopey-looking penguins will show up, and they'll just give chase to you. If they catch you, they will glomp onto you, and they will slow you down. If like 4 to 6 of them grab onto you at once, you are quote-unquote captured, and that counts as you losing health. And in addition, you'll lose health by like jumping in the bottomless pits and the like too. Run out of lives, you'll lose 10,000 points and be asked if you want to restart from the checkpoint or the beginning of the stage. The reason why the points are such a deep punishment instead of you just having to start the level over is because you are going for highest scores at the end of every level too. So even if you just want to play through the game, you can just keep going forward. But I can't imagine being someone that's like, I see there's a score that I'm meant to get, but I don't care. People are like that. I wish I were like that because that would make my enjoyment of this game go up so much more. But yeah, unfortunately, no, not for me. So, but yeah, you don't have to do it. But if you do fail, you get a penalty of a score and you get to keep going. The interesting part about the platforming in the yo-yo system, though, is the fact that it has sort of 2 mechanics or 2 control schemas. And I'm trying to get used to the latter that I'm going to talk about shortly. The first one is just all button play. Like you can push the X button to throw your yo-yo. You can use the trigger buttons to bring up your yo-yo to drop it down and whatnot. But you can also use the right thumbstick to do maybe all of them. I haven't figured it out yet, but at least a vast majority of the yo-yo tricks can be done with the right thumbstick, including the yo-yo rotation spin. So it's kind of nice to be like, okay, I'm running around, I'm doing tricks, I'm throwing the yo-yo behind my back. I'm basically doing my air swing and my dashes by just tapping the thumbstick in. But it's also hard to do that way, too, because there's a lot of times where like I was trying to keep my momentum going. I just couldn't pull it off. And for the record, the other thing about the momentum is like if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yo, Pernell, here's the secret. Here's where you're getting it wrong. Please tell me. But I feel like the game wants you to be able to go faster than you actually can sometimes. Like I'll be thinking I'm going as fast as I can. I'll do the roll mechanic. I'll even zip it up with like a freaking like spin dash. And I'm like barely getting the momentum I need to get some progress. And sure enough, penguins are like up my behind for no damn reason. Drive me freaking crazy. I just feel like I should be going faster than I actually am sometimes. I mean, yeah, there is a power up in some of the levels where you get basically like a chili pepper and you become like a rocket yo-yo. But I'm talking normal platforming segments where you can get the yo-yo rev up. But with that said, I will say the game is a lot of fun to play in its general scope. You do get to collect collectibles that you can use to spend to unlock, perks that can either help you out on levels or get you opportunities to get higher scores on levels. And you can also unlock bonus stages by using some of the collectibles as well. But at least in my experience, there's one major issue from this game that became an issue over and over again, and I hope this changes over time. And what that issue is the fact that for whatever reason, this game was not very kind to me as far as like, I don't know, like performance goes sometimes. Like there were times where I would just fall through the floor and get stuck in the walls. Like there was one part early in the game, and this happened multiple times. It wasn't like a one-time thing, where you have to use your yo-yo to spin up a corkscrew. And once you get to the top, a bunch of penguins will come after you. Well, I chicken butted out of there because like, I don't want to get caught by the penguins. And rather than go forward, I ran back and jumped down. My guy got caught on the wall for some reason, started doing this weird spinning thing, and just got stuck in the wall. And I had to start the level over. And it happened in a few other places in the game as well as I played it. I don't know what triggered it per se. Maybe it was just jumping into a thing that the game didn't want you to get stuck to. Maybe it was like a sort of repelling mechanism so you wouldn't be able to walk on platforms you otherwise couldn't. But hopefully they can patch that rather than have that. They can just say it's just intangible and you'll just fall through it. Though that might come with its own problems too, depending on where. Because I have also had a moment or two where I fell through scenery and that cost me,
the game
progress.
just doesn't want you to be a chicken shit. That's all.
No, even when I'm not being when I'm a chicken shit, I fail. When I'm a daring do, I fail. When I'm middle of the road, Taco Bell, Bel Grande, I'm also failing. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. And the thing about it is, like, I don't want to say anything like denied or nothing like that because everything I'm describing are performances that can be patched out if they work on it a bit. And I'm sure other people have made comments like this too. But because I can tell you right now that if I weren't having any performance issues, I would find myself feeling like this game is a lot of fun. I would probably wish that it had, typical late stage, 3D platforming elements such as unlocking new moves instead of only getting like temporary power-ups a la Mario 64. But, I'll live. I do like the yo-yo mechanic. I like the fact that this world is extremely colorful and very vibrant. I like the characters in the game. Again, it just feels like a wacky cartoon, and it doesn't take itself seriously at all. I mean, literally, your opponents are just like ridiculous-looking Three Stooges penguin-looking things. It's great. So for me, this game is a solid hit. The problem is just that it needs to get some, QA on the performance and get some of these mechanics stretched out or ironed out, because that will make a lot of people frustrated when they're trying to get a hang of it, especially because, again, the controls do take some getting used to, and they're not just a straightforward bid. So that on top of performance can give you a lot of grief. So,
well, it's $30. What is your verdict on Perny's Big Breakaway?
I would give it a try it, though. If they get some performance patches in there, I think I can get this closer to a buy it, but at least a try it.
Sounds good. All right, next up is ULTROS, developed by Hadoque, published by Kepler Interactive, released February 13th on PS4, PS5, and PC for $24.99. ULTROS is a psychedelic Metroidvania where you wake up stranded on the sarcophagus, a cosmic uterus holding an ancient demonic being. Trapped in the loop of a black hole, you'll have to explore the sarcophagus, meet its inhabitants to understand the part you play. Andy, what is going on in ULTROS?
So, Joe, just like you just said, ULTROS, put simply, is a cosmic psychedelic trip through a space uterus. Just like take that in for a second. It is a eye-popping palette that will amaze and misinform you of what can be interacted with in this 2D Metroidvania. Kaleidoscopic art direction coupled by a mystical soundtrack meant to leave a lasting impression on the player. This is a beautiful game. Phenomenally beautiful. Lots of colors, lots of like very good atmospheric, tension and drive between this game. You take control of OG, I think is how you say her name, the female protagonist who has crash landed her ship into what is referred to as the sarcophagus, as you mentioned, a giant space drifting cosmic uterus containing an ancient demonic being held captive by the Barian Sham. There's so many words in this game too that are like I'm terrible at pronouncing. I'm glad I had Aki's name to kind of practice on too. Shamasals, the Barian Shamasals. They're basically like priests, like locked in these little tombs. This being is known as ULTROS, and it's your duty to handle this creature by whatever means necessary. Through a different approach to the roguelike restart. So the game is a Metroidvania, but it does have some roguelite elements to it. Each encounter with ULTROS will result in a new beginning. Areas that were discovered and tampered with on the previous run will be affected by whatever influence you may have had on it previously. Plants and animals change and work together, bringing new life to an area grown from a simple seed. Everything in the game is alive. Everything in the game interacts as you progress through the game and play certain parts to it. You'll kind of figure out what that means too. At the beginning, it's not as much. You're kind of like blasted into this like crazy, just colorful world, but it slowly makes sense as you go through it. The world of ULTROS is teeming with life. Plants and animals inhabit the tunnels below, existing long before you arrived and will continue to exist long after you leave. What may seem like an enemy at first encounter going through your first run could in fact be a key ingredient to the life structure within the biome. violence isn't always the answer in ULTROS, and it's not. There's multiple pathways you can take in this game. Sometimes violence is the answer, as creature can be cut down and landscapes can be changed or manipulated. While the hack and slash approach is fine in most games like this, hacking up alien life forms in this game will result in botched creature parts. Using a more strategic approach, planned movesets and new moves learned, a little bit of finesse will result in higher quality creature parts gained. These parts, when consumed, will provide health and nutrition points in one of 4 categories, which can then be used to unlock new abilities. None of the abilities unlocked are essential to progression, but can definitely be helpful in improving the gameplay. Skill tree is provided and can be accessed in the save state pods that are kind of randomly placed throughout the map, usually next to new biomes, and include abilities such as a higher jump, more attack power, faster food consumption rate, which is helpful during like larger battles and things, or even the ability for creatures in the game to regard you as non-threatening. Skill tree abilities unlocked previously may be forgotten though, so there is that roguelite element where it restarts every single time. The sequence, unless there's an item that you can get, I believe it's called a cortex chip. They can be hidden throughout the map, found throughout the map, I should say, and those kind of lock those abilities that you unlock in place too. So the next run, you're still able to use that double jump or whatever it may be. Skills that are essential are stored in what is known as the extractor, which is a small device that once discovered in a run will provide techniques previously learned. The double jump, the digging tool, which can be used to dig up plants, find items deep within the earth, or it's not the earth, I guess it's inside the sarcophagus, I should say, deep in the ground, and spinning saw blade. Those are just a few of the tools you gain throughout the game. Those help you access new areas of the map, and like I said, are lost upon a restart, but gained once you find the extractor again. There are lots of deep secrets and alternate paths within the game. When violence isn't the answer, try a different approach. Like I said earlier, there are skill tree abilities that will allow you to be non-threatening towards creatures, which is kind of interesting. There is a passive approach to this game too, which is kind of fun to discover and play through. Overall, the gameplay could possibly be kind of a reference to how beautiful life is, or even like a narrative to how we approach things, in general. You'll encounter other characters on the sarcophagus also. A character known as Gardener. He's a Mushi botanist from the lands of Trellis. A tender soul with a vast knowledge of alien plant life, Gardener helps the player to better understand the creatures and plant life that surrounds them. Suggestions of what to plant in certain areas for best results. Plants come in the form of seeds and provide fruit and nutrition points. As mentioned earlier, killing enemies within the game provide nutrition points, but so do plants. So you don't necessarily have to like kill anything in this game. They have a different effect on the landscape. Some plants open new pathways towards new areas or secrets, usually influenced by each run. So every run is a set amount of time, or just indeterminate amount of time before you wake up again. And those plants that you planted previously will grow bigger or have more life to them, accessing new areas or breaking open doors that were previously blocked. Another character encountered is Vasa, who is kind of the opposite of Gardener. She's a huntress from the realm of Urild. She teaches you how to use the close combat system in the game to create a balance towards the creatures that you come in contact with. She is a balance to the life on the planet, and the game is very closely related to life and death and the choices you make. I found myself going through this the way I would any Metroidvania, kind of just running through, hack and slash, exploring, trying to figure things out, fighting anything that came in my way. But each run, I kind of started slowing down a little bit, trying to take everything in, take in the art style, take in what the creatures are actually doing, take in what the plant life is actually doing, the connection everything has, throughout the game, and started really kind of finding my influence, like, among all those things too. I got into a few situations too in the game where I actually felt like really bad about my decisions too, and there were things that came up that I didn't know about and found out later that I wish I could have gone back in the run and changed, but I have to live with that, so that's kind of on me, But there are chances for multiple runs through the game, I mean, it's very interesting how they kind of did the symbiosis. How do you say that word?
Something
Symbiotic
like that.
relationship. Yeah, between all the plant life, the animal life. I'm not good with words, so just the overall combination of everything together and where you play a part in everything too. I thought it was phenomenal. They did a great job on this game.
Oh, well, the game clocks in at $24.99. Give us your final thoughts on ULTROS.
I would say if you get the opportunity to buy it. Because it was just the aesthetic alone. I mean, between the visuals and the soundtrack, that alone was enough. I've bought albums that were more expensive than this game. So I would say get it. It's a journey. It's fun. They did a really good job with it. There are multiple endings to this game too, so you can play it multiple times and discover new things. So yeah, I would say get it.
Very cool. All right, well, Andy, that is it for you. We will let you get going. Thank you as always for coming on and chilling with us.
Heck yeah, dude! Thank you guys for letting me on and hanging out.
Thanks, Andy. I don't know why I'm saying your name like that. I'm sorry, dude.
I think it's awesome. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Good night,
Aki,
Andy.
I'll keep trying to pronounce your name.
Later.
All right, later, guys.
Have a good one, Andy.
Have a good night.
Andy.
I like how Pernell's the mature, kind one here.
Yeah. The rest of us are just crazy. Next game, the Mobius Machine, developed and published by Madruga Works, releasing March 1st on Series X and S, PS5, and PC for $24.99. Discover a vast alien world, fight the ferocious local fauna and killer machines, reveal its secrets, and find a way to escape. The Mobius Machine is a side-scrolling action platformer with dynamic combat and heavy emphasis on exploration. Pernell and Brooke. I can't talk tonight. I'm so sorry. Pernell and Brooke, both of you covered this one. Pernell, how about you start? What is the Mobius Machine?
So, Mobius Machine is essentially you running around a weird alien planet, trying to explore in order to find your way off of it. You crash land on it. The main things about it worth describing, in my opinion, is that I feel like it does a good job. Well, I guess I should mention the idea that you're running around like a Metroidvania, or no, I'm not going to say that. It's an actual Metroid-like game. There's no freaking Vania. So
you mean no Dracula?
Around, no Dracula. There's no freaking numbered stat weapons, and you're not leveling up your character and all that jazz. You're running around this alien planet, trying to explore it and find your way off, and also figure out where the distress signal here. You try to figure out where it came from. And the idea here is that you have generally the mechanic that before you start finding upgrades and stuff, your idea generally is that you have a regular jump mechanic. You have the ability to equip two weapons, one to your right trigger and one to your left trigger, which honestly I love that idea. I'm surprised more games don't let you do that with their stuff. And you are able to collect energy icons, whether found in like objects or from defeating enemies, which you can use to do a variety of things, most notably to heal yourself, or because there's no like really healing items per se. So heal yourself, and also to give your weaponry a little bit of an extra oomph. So you'll be choosing between whether you want more firepower or the ability to heal yourself with the ability to, with that charging mechanic. As you're exploring the world also, in pretty much every aspect of this planet, there's like a bit of a gummy substance that just kind of crops up, and there are multiple varieties of it. The game gives you a bit of an idea of how to go about, identifying each of them and then what they do or how they behave. And at that point, you just kind of have to work on it on your own as you come across it. But like this gummy substance can be used as a platform, sometimes. It can be fired through sometimes. It can explode on impact sometimes. It can be spiky and lethal to the touch sometimes. It just depends on like where you find it and what its properties are, and that's how you identify how to interact with it. And you'll be utilizing this stuff in different ways as you explore the planet to get around. Like, for example, one particular type, it might be set up so that if you jump on it, it'll collapse immediately upon your feet, which means you need to find an upgrade that will allow you to run across it without it collapsing on you. Or rather, it will collapse on you, but you'll be too far gone to care. As you explore the planet, you'll come across different map icons or more computers that will download map sections for you so you can explore with a better understanding of where you're going. And for the record, the sections in this game are actually surprisingly huge. So it's not like very tiny zones at all. You're doing a lot of running around and a lot of exploring. You'll also come across blueprints or fragments of blueprints, which you can use at workshop stations along with currency to unlock new weaponry and gear for yourself. And of course, those things, if you find subsequent repeated blueprints, you can upgrade those things as well. Mechanically firing, as far as firing your gun goes, another thing that I wish more games of this nature would do is this game gives you dual stick mechanics. So left stick is for the maneuverability of your character. Right stick is actually aiming your gun. So you can have some legitimate running gun antics going on with this game in the right firefight situations because you can move independently from your gun. If you need, it took me a little bit to realize it, but if, for example, I'm used to playing games like Contra where they made you use the trigger button, kind of hold your gun position. But in this game, it's done in a way where once you're firing the gun, the position's held. So aim, fire, hold down the fire button, and now you can run around while holding that position of gunplay. I've been explaining general stuff about the game for now. I will stop rambling and let Brooke talk a little bit. Or rather, I'm not letting her. Brooke can talk whatever the hell she wants because she's that kind of woman. Do what you want, girl.
Thank you, Pernell. I'm loving the girl power, but I'm also appreciating the permission, too. Okay. First thing I want to say here, Pernell's done a great job talking about the nitty-gritty of this game. In a few minutes here, I'm going to be reviewing a separate game that is classified as a horror game. While Mobius Machine, I wouldn't say is selling itself as a horror game at all. I was a lot more scared and spooked out by Mobius Machine than the horror game itself. This is not a ding on the horror game, but I found this to be very, environmentally spooky and off-putting. Perny's given us our big breakaway here. I'll just point out a couple notes I have here. I struggled with the tutorial like I do with all games, but I also appreciated how it kind of leveled off, and the further into the world you go, the more you might learn. However, because of my brain and learning style, this caused me to... I'm not as familiar with Metroidvania stuff, so I didn't understand backtracking is such a big part of the game. Like, you might need to get a piece of equipment and then go back a few levels and find something that you hadn't seen before. I thought that was really cool, and I think it gives the game a lot of, extra game hours for people like me, let's just say. I didn't love that the dialogue does not stop in a cinematic if you are not done reading it yet. I'm assuming Pernell did not notice this. I'm a little bit of a slow reader, so this causes the cinematic to end before you're ready if you weren't done reading it yet. And you can't replay it or run it back, so there's just one cinematic in the game I haven't seen where you're talking to the little robot. I don't really know what conversation happened there, but... I do wish that was a little different. But other than that, I had a great time with this game. I really love the art style of the game. I'm going to talk about vibes here for a minute before we hand her back to Pernell for rating. At first, I wasn't sure that I would love the art style of this game. Looking at screenshots, looks a little cartoony. But as soon as I started walking around in this game's drippy alien biomes and feeling the heaviness of my own jumping and shooting, I was like, oh, this game is very thoughtfully physically designed. Yourself and objects feel like they have a weight. Movement and being shot really, for me, carries a lot of oomph. I like how there's this strange continuity between the drippy, what did you call them, Pernell? I don't know what to call them, but they're the levels that you can land on.
Let's call them globules.
Yeah, that's a really great name for them because they're really they have animation. Everything in this game has really cool animation where they look like they're really dripping and you can jump around on top of them. They've all got different properties too. I was probably 5 or 6 hours in this game before I noticed that a lot of the aliens of the level kind of had this weird continuity with whatever the plant life of the level is too. Like if we have little octopus guys rolling around in the sky, I'll notice maybe my 4th or 5th visit to that level that some of the trees kind of look like those creatures too. It's hard to explain, but I feel like they really knocked it out of the park. Enjoyed the sound design. While it wasn't anything to write home about, nothing breaking any molds, it was perfect for the environment. We hear sound designs like this a lot in like space and exploration or like scrapping games, but I felt this really hit the mark. Another thing that made me feel like this game feels realer, quote unquote, to me, which is weird because it's directly a sci-fi thing that would never happen in real life. When you're walking around in your spacesuit and an alien shoots you, you get damaged. Or are we the aliens? Ooh. When an alien damages us, it feels like it hurts. Like it looks like it hurts and it feels like it hurts, even though we're not experiencing it because of the sound effects and the visuals. It's really well done. Everything gets kind of hazy. And there's just a lot of really cool sensory touches that make this game feel how I feel like the creators intended this game to feel vibes-wise. I found this whole game to be scary, off-putting. I found it to be lonely because we're basically going around scavenging solo in these biomes and there's no other humanoids or robots to talk to anywhere. So yeah, for me, the environmental touches are what really took this game from being, for me, a generic side-scroller Metroidvania sort of experience into making it feel like a special experience that just happens to be using those tools to get it done in a sci-fi scrapping environment.
You don't scrap.
Pernell, any other comments?
One thing I should mention, just I don't know why I didn't say it before, but just when Brooke made the mention of the Metroid exploration mechanics. Again, I'll mention this every time I review a Metroid or Metroidvania game. These guys gave you the option to put pins down on points of interest. More people should be doing that too.
Wait, what? Is that what the little blue triangles on the map are?
Yep, you can place those pins if there's an icon object that you're like, hey, there's a thing there, but I can't reach it. The game won't tell you on its own, but if you mark it, you'll know to come back. You get up to 25 of them, and you can be like, well, I want to remove one and put one back later.
That's really cool.
It's one of those where I feel like every one of these games should be doing this. It's just such a simple thing, and it makes the experience so much better.
Okay, now tell us how to get through Sector 7. No, I'm just kidding.
Original Metroid games, didn't they have like a circle on the map if there was an item there and a dot if you already got it or something like that?
You think about cootie shots. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's been a while since I played the original Metroid, but from what I remember,
it was Metroid.
Super Metroid. I know you couldn't put stuff down yourself, but I want to say they let you know when you found certain things. But it didn't give you all the details. Let's say, for example, there was like a missile upgrade that you didn't pick up in a place. The game didn't tell you, by the way, there's a missile upgrade that you didn't get. Go back and get it. No, but there
was an icon that something was there.
That may have been a while. So you may be right about that, but I'm not remembering off the top of my head. If
like
that was how
it didn't tell you missiles were there, but it's just like, hey, something's here. You didn't get it.
There's an
I know it's at least in Super Metroid. I can't recall if it's in the original or not. Chris?
I know it's not in the original. No. Oh, man. Chris is like the resident retro man. Like, you have to know this.
What is that?
Exactly. Mobius machines, $25. What do you guys think of it?
Easy recommend.
Yeah, I was gonna say easy buy it. I really like this.
Very good. All right. Next up, Genso Chronicles, developed by Hitpoint, published by KEMCO, released February 16th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $14.99. Forge bonds and fight with guardian beasts in this Fastnessy RPG, right, Chris?
Yes.
Fazantasy.
There's no typo here. We're making fun of someone else's typo. So I just want to be clear. There is no typo in our copy. It is good. This is just us being weird.
We're making fun.
We're perfect.
We're making fun of entities much larger than ourselves, who should be held to higher standards than we.
Well said.
We spell your game right, KEMCO. Chris, what is Genso Chronicles?
Well, it's funny you should say, because nobody else gets this name right. Okay, so we got a little bit of story time. But basically, Genso Chronicles is a RPG from KEMCO, but from Hitpoint. I love Hitpoint. I've always been very positive on their games. In fact, I think I've almost played all of them now, but almost all their RPGs. So Hitpoint is a strange developer. They split their time somewhat neatly between things like, Genso Chronicles, Raging Bites we talked about, Gale of Windoria, Armdemeth, Crystal Ortha, Monster Viator, Legend of the Tetrarchs. I mean, you name it, I've played it. Just these nice kind of, 20 to 30 hour, 32-bit-ish RPGs that KEMCO publishes. They split their time between that and like ultra cutesy like app type games. You may recognize their grand opus as Neko Atsume. That's them. They also have, what was it? Something like, it's like Collection of Face Fruit or something like that. They have some weird ones. And then sometimes they throw in, and then sometimes they throw in something like, Henry Impossible Action Game, which is just an action game, which they don't usually do. So, again, they're a little interesting. But yeah, like most people will know them not by name because they know Neko Atsume. That game was huge for a while, back in the, middle of the last decade. Anyways, so Genso Chronicles is interesting because it's, as far as I know, the first known Hitpoint piece of software. I can't find anything older than Genso Chronicles' original release, which was on the PSP. It was called Fantasy Chronicle. So it was like, it was, so it went through a little bit of a name change. Now, the thing about it is that if you look up Fantasy Chronicle on the PSP, you'll see that people weren't too happy about it. It had a really rough translation, apparently had some performance issues, whatever. People didn't understand, I think, back in the pre-Switch era, that like you could have a good time with like an RPG that wasn't like a Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest or some AAA thing. It's like, I think a lot more folks are a lot more forgiving of the fact that there are mobile RPGs that are actually good and you don't have to worry about whether they're good or bad. And like kind of how I am, like that's becoming a little bit more of a thing now. And thank goodness, because this game's actually really good. They have fixed up the translation. It runs at a really smooth, actually almost too fast frame rate. It's like you actually really motor through this game. Which again, I enjoy. It does have a couple of like artifacty type things. For instance, dialogue is like, one or two sentences at a time on one corner of the screen, but they'll tell you a whole story, but one sentence at a time. So you're just constantly pushing that A button, and your only real recourse is to just set the text to instant instead of scrolling, and then that way it saves you on the A button pushes, but you're going to miss a lot of stuff because you're going to like a dialogue will pop up and you'll skip it because you accidentally hit A or something. But all this to say, this is their earliest RPG, and you can see like the kind of the bones of like what they have done in, like I said, Raging Bites, Gale of Windoria, Armdemeth, etc. You can see them here. For one, the characters constantly bouncing in place, which is one of my favorites. It's absolutely how you know that a KEMCO game is a Hitpoint game and not an X-Create game. Because instead of their hair blowing in the breeze, which is X-Create, they bounce in place, which is Hitpoint. So there you go. Unless you looked at the title screen and saw like the developer there, it's not like they make it a secret. The other thing is that our favorite, it's like the equivalent in a Hitpoint RPG to a Dragon Quest slime is a Hitpoint poncho. A poncho is like a little cartoony, almost looks like a little canary bird. It's just this very innocuous thing, and they end up like popping up in like different levels of difficulty all throughout the game, and they never look like anything that's like real. Anything else might look like kind of cool, like a real monster or something like that, but a poncho is just like a little smiley face coming at you. I love them, and they're in I can confirm now that they're in every hit point game that I've played, going all the way back to this one in 2012 at least. So yeah, the storyline follows a character called Light as he basically goes through the training at the local knight place to become a local knight with his friend, who is also kind of dating his sister, who is adopted. So this might be a sister girlfriend situation. Who knows? We see a lot of that in RPGs. Hey, we're both adopted in the same age. That's not going to come back in a weird way. So anyways, yeah, so he leaves town to go become a knight, and then comes back, and well, whoops, RPG tropes happen, and so his sister girlfriend, possibly actual sister, is missing. So he has to go, and his grandma, by the way. So he has to go and try to rescue his grandma and his sister, and along the way meets like a very annoying little girl who, and also like somebody who is a high-powered sorceress who looks exactly like his sister girlfriend, but isn't her because she has a different name. Okay. But she also doesn't have her memories, so that's not going to come back in any sort of way. But
this review is so good, by the way. This is so
Thank you. Brooke and I being like kind of genre experts, we know how to speak in tropes. So anyways, in the tropes of our chosen expertise, I mean. Anyways. Yeah, so here's the other thing about this, and this is something that's come up in games like Tetrarchs and Viator, Monster Viator, is that along the way you collect mystical beasts who become kind of like an attachment to your character. You more or less equip them, and what they do is they, depending on how they function, they may block some attacks that come to your character. They may attack kind of on their own. Whenever your character attacks, they might boost some stats. They might heal you. They do all kinds of things. And the cool thing is, even though all your characters kind of get to start with a specific one that's tied into the story, you can just swap them out between each other. And that's actually kind of cool. I like that system. It's a little complicated, but actually this game is a little complicated versus like other things that they do. For instance, there's another thing where you basically make equipment in this game by gathering resources, and you can also hire a hamster to go and gather resources for you, which is, I think, something that needs to be in all video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, you like get all your ores together, and then like you take them to the guild and fulfill a quest that is just ever present, where like if you have 10 of this one thing, you get to change it for this one thing, and then that's somehow a quest. And so you just keep completing that quest to like build up your stock of like iron ores or whatever. Take those back to the place where you talk to the hamster, and then talk to the weapon upgrade guy to like upgrade your weapon using those same materials. So it just ends up being this kind of grocery list of like, of running errands in order to get a better sword instead of just buying a new sword. Although there is money, and money is exchanged in improving these swords, the actual way to get different swords is to improve your sword to a certain point where you can branch off into another different kind of weapon. So if you have the right materials, you can like kind of do this like follow along this tree of like turning your iron sword into, I don't know, heavenly godslayer weapon extraordinaire kind of thing for the late game or whatever. There's no lottery system. There are, however, extra like points, like specific currency that you can get in the game in exchange for stuff. You can either use it to buy like permanent upgrades to the game, such as doubling your experience or gold, or making monsters less likely to attack you, or you can dump them into the hamster and have him go find better items for you. Invest in your hamsters today, folks. So yeah, it's like it's an interesting take on something that is essentially the beginning of like the whole hit point thing, which is to say they make like these RPGs that if you look at them, you're like, oh, okay, it's just trying to look like Chrono Trigger. I bet it sucks. And then you're just like, you start to play it and you realize the story is like 10 shades of complicated. Everything has a system with like branching paths. And you don't even walk between towns. Like, you just select them on a map and stuff. Like, you want to go to the inn, you just select the inn from the menu. You don't actually go there. The art is also interesting. This is kind of like, you can see that this is where they like kind of started and then improved it to get to the other games. The character portraits are very clearly like pencil drawn and then scanned in. And like when you're in a town, it's just an oil painting. It's like not even like there's no defined lines or anything. It's just like splooges of color and stuff that like look like buildings. It's actually kind of impressionist in a way, and I actually really like that. Music's also really good, although the loops tend to be too short. That is my criticism for each and every hit point game I come across. But all in all, this is actually really... It ended up being cooler than I thought it would, because given what how early it was in like the in the list of games from the makers of Neko Atsume and Spoon Pet Collector.
Wait, what? Spoon Pet Collector?
Spoon Pet Collector, yeah. It's
That'll
kind of
be
a Hello
for another
Kitty
episode.
Yeah. We'll talk about another hit point game, and then I'll tell you about Spoon Pet Collector.
Works for me. Genso Chronicles is $15. What do you think?
This one actually is a buy it from me. I say it is a worthy remake because I couldn't detect any kind of like real oldness to the game. It just seems different. It's not until you actually look it up and realize that it had like this whole ass other name and an identity before that anything's amiss. It's a great adventure, and like I said, I really like what they go for in this. It takes a little while to get started because you kind of have to figure out like a couple of different systems and such. But ultimately, yeah, it's an early one, but I like it a lot, and I'll be definitely trying to play all the way through this one.
Well, sounds good. Got to move on. Next game is called What the Golf, developed and published by Triband Productions, released March 14th on PS5 for $19.99, so it'll be out in a few weeks. Packed with humor, puns, and goofy parodies, this game will make you question everything you thought you knew about golf. It's a silly physics-based golf parody where each level is a new surprising type of golf. Some brilliant or hilarious, others so absurd you'll ask yourself, what the golf? Pernell, what the golf?
Hello?
Yeah.
There you are. It was weird. Hi, how you be?
Good.
Want to play
How
some
are
What
you?
the Golf sometime? I'm doing all good. We got to play some What the Golf sometime.
What is What the Golf?
Ridiculous as shit. And I say that in the most endearing way possible. I did not expect this game to hit like it did. But, oh my God. So the game starts out throwing you right into the game. You have a golf ball. There is a hole. You just kind of intuitively realize I need to hold the trigger, hold the directional stick, and then to send the ball flying to the hole. The game's like, yay, hole in one. Then it has another level. You do it again. Another level, you do it again. And then it starts to get a little weirder. It has a guy holding the golf club now. And it's like, hit the ball to the hole. You're like, okay. So you swing, you go, and the man gets launched into the hole. And it's like, there you go. You win. Enjoy. And then after this whole thing happens, you get your title screen. And then you get an overworld where you're a ball going into the golf factory or the golf laboratory. I'm sorry. And there's a computer talking to you, asking you about crap, saying you don't have permission to be here, and you are a golf ball exploring a golf laboratory. It's already freaking strange. And it just keeps getting stranger because at this point you are exploring this place, going from room to room as best you can. And as you come across different rooms, you'll also come across different holes. Each hole encompasses a different stage. And once you roll into that hole, you are tasked with a goal. Usually some form or variation of hitting a ball into a thing. Once you've completed the first one, you get kicked out, and that counts as completing the hole for, requests of the main map, like to get through a gate or something. But if you re-enter it, there are two other goals you can attempt, and they generally come in the form of brand new things, and they become absurd. Like, I don't want to spoil a bunch, but I'll tell you my two favorite ones, or maybe three. One of them was pretty much a recreation of like a chunk of Super Mario Brothers, but you're controlling the golf ball, and you have to get to the end of the stage and get the flags. It's ridiculous. And at the end of the level, it's a Donkey Kong level where you have to get up to a flag on some rafters. There's another one where there's a man sitting on a couch, and you have to launch the couch. And from launching the couch, the man has to get propelled from the couch. And he's the projectile that has to hit the hole, not the couch, because that's already strange enough. But not the couch, the man sitting on the couch. Then, of course, there's another one where the ball is actually flubber. And the ball is bouncing around. And it can bounce off the walls. It's like you got to hit it in like 8 shots. But you can sometimes redirect the ball and stuff like that. This game is ridiculous. And I love it because the game's not even hard. Like,
no, this actually started off as an Apple Arcade game back in 2019. And then a Switch version came, and then a Steam version came, and now we got a PlayStation version, which hilariously enough came after What the Bat on PSVR 2 from the same people.
Well, what I'll say to that is I'm depressed. Like, this is one of those cases where I probably saw this game on app stores and looked at it and said, I'm not going to buy this. I would like to hopefully get anyone else who is hearing this to not make the mistake I did, or rather, if you made the mistake, to remedy it now. This game is worth your time. Like, it's not even a hard game. It's just a game you play to go, what the hell do they want me to do next? What's the next hole going to be? What strange goal do they have in mind to progress further in this game? And they're all fun to discover and figure out. And just when you think they're done, they come up with something stupid in the best way possible. I can't recommend this game enough. And it's actually, of all the big budget games on this episode, in regards to, like, the pennies and stuff, this is my favorite one from the episode.
Oh, awesome.
What the Golf is great.
It is. I loved it on Apple Arcade. It was like one of the only reasons I was an Apple Arcade subscriber for the longest time.
Yes.
I've always wanted to pick it up on the Switch, but I don't know. Maybe I'll pick it up on Steam. It just makes, unless, hey, devs, if you're listening, one more console, you could throw this fucker on. Come on, let's get What the Golf on Xbox. Let's do it, baby.
What the X?
What the X? That's right. What the Golf? It's $20. What do you think?
Easy buy it. Easy buy it recommendation. Don't sleep on this mess unless you just plain hate laughing. In which case, I can't help you, but a therapist might.
Like that we can hear Pernell like literally smiling. We can hear him smiling when he's giving that review. It was awesome.
Oh, what the Bat was the same way. It was just so ridiculously over the top fun. Their brand of humor is pretty enjoyable, and they have a new game called What the Car coming out later on this year.
Nice.
Oh, mercy.
That should be interesting. So hopefully we could check that out when it's ready to go. But until then, we got one. What, Pernell?
I know I already want it.
Yeah. Well, you can wish list it on Steam. Do it today, kids. We got one final game to talk about that is called Looking Up, I See Only a Ceiling, developed and published by Flynn's Arcade, released February 29th on the Switch for $2.99. A short psychological adventure about a stressed girl who wants to explore her attic. Brooke, what's going on in Looking Up, I See Only a Ceiling?
I didn't know what to expect when I started playing Looking Up, except I knew it costs $2.99, and it's a very pretty pixel art horror game. You son of a bitch, I'm in. So starting the game up, hey, this is my style. Yeah, Joe actually found this, and I was like, this looks amazing. So starting the game up, I found myself to be a young woman in college studying what I think is art. We're in a pixel art world, first-person view, and the game controls operate a bit like a point-and-click mystery adventure game, only emphasis on the click part, not so much the point, if that makes sense. On each screen, area, room we are on in this game to explore whatever we're doing at any given time in each room. We have about 5 to 7 options we can select. Little icons on the screen we can tap, so there's not really anything to find by dragging a cursor around, just process of elimination, really, or figuring out how to do things in a certain order to advance the game. Like, we start in our room. If we try to select our closet in our bedroom, we go, hey, I don't really want to try on clothes right now. I want breakfast. So then the game turns into, how do I get to my kitchen and my apartment? Limited options aside, this is still a bit of a challenge, partly because the game has a really charming, little bit abstract and minimalist art style. And we have to navigate through a corridor and a few rooms to get there. Once we're in the kitchen, we eventually figure out how to make coffee, breakfast. It's time to leave the kitchen. Some scary stuff has started happening, but when we go to the corridor to return to our room, we notice that it's not the same corridor. The hall is dark, and the only item in the room are some ripped up calendar pages on the ground with all kinds of red ink all over them, marked furiously. Moving through the new scary corridor, we get to another room we haven't seen before, walls all covered in red ripped up calendar pages like the first ones we saw. We go through a few more rooms like this before we come across one room that is occupied. In this room is a man with a big old creepy smile on his face. And for a cartoon character, he's looking pretty handsome, if I may. We say to ourselves, we don't know this man, but he also seems familiar. And while I'd love to talk more about the very cool, eerie story of this game, this is a $2.99 game that's mostly an environmental, psychological horror. It's definitely narrative driven, and it, like the game description in the Switch eShop says, it's not super long at all. So that's all I'm comfortable sharing about the plot, which is obviously the main part of the game. So here's what I liked about the game other than the plot that I feel I can talk about. I love that while the game is short, we do get multiple endings we can unlock with multiple playthroughs. I got 2 endings based on the flowchart you can check out at the end of the game. I thought these were the only 2 endings until I was doing a little research on the game today, pre-review. Because that's what that screen wants me to think. They tricked me, man. There's a 3rd secret ending, and I have no idea how to get that one yet. So that's cool as hell. I love that, especially a simple game like this. Vibes-wise, while this is an environmental horror game, we're not really dealing with jump scares here. That's always the first thing my partner wants to know about a horror game, because if there are jump scares, he will not play the game. So this game is very friendly. Brooke's partner friendly. This is a scary game, but it's a slow burn, and it's more about scary ideas that I feel are open to interpretation, which I personally really like. And I find that when small little indie horror games go for this type of vibe, I find a lot of them to be a little phoned in, or they just didn't really put out a great piece of art here. Maybe it doesn't feel like a complete idea. I don't feel that way about this game. I think they had a really solid idea here and executed it, I'm guessing, exactly how they wanted to. I like the sound design. I love the art of this game, and it has a few different kind of pixel art styles going on depending on where you are and what you're looking at. The hand close-ups and mouth and face close-ups are a slightly different art style that I just feel works so cohesively together, and it's really creepy and charming at the same time. I love what a deep little world it is. I love how accessible it is and how easy to play, but also easy to get lost within it because it's not too easy, in my opinion. It does require a little bit of critical thinking. Not too much, luckily for me. After you get an ending in this game, you can go back into the game in explore mode, where you can learn more about the little world we're in and all it's got going on here, what might be actually happening. I did check out the game in explore mode, and that's when I noticed the game's colors in the regular playthrough are normally really dim and muted. But in explore mode, it's super colorful by comparison, even though it's mostly, the same apartment, same items, which makes you go back and look at the main game differently for sure if you then try to gun for a different ending. They're doing something really cool here. And in explore mode, some things may be different than they were in your actual playthrough where you're trying to get a specific ending. Final notes from me before we wrap this up with our rating for you. I don't find this game to be too cerebral, even though it's definitely a psychological horror at all. Even though this game gives you a lot to think about and imagine if you want, but only if you want. You don't need to want to play that way to enjoy this game, to appreciate what it's doing here. If you want to take literally everything this game does on a topical level as just a creepy little universe and life to explore, no questions asked, that's fine. If you want to play through this and never give it another thought, I believe the devs have still delivered on their promise here for a really neat, complete experience that's still open to different interpretations. But if you're more of a player who likes to drag out the experience with an autopsy of your gameplay and monologue to your friends about what might be going on in this crazy game with the help of a bunch of cork boards on the wall covered in photos and scraps of paper you connected with like a series of red strings and pins like a crazy person, hey, this game has got your back too, buddy. Go nuts. Because maybe, just maybe, that's what the main character of this game has done as well. All right, that's all I got.
Well, it's $3. What else? What else can you say, really? $3.
It's just that it's awesome, and I love it. This game's a little piece of fine art. Buy it, even if you beat this in an hour. Which, by the way, doesn't make you better than me. I think it's still worth $2.99. I think this is an awesome little game. Thanks for finding
Make
this
you
show.
better than me.
Coin art.
Oh man, I love it. Well, that is it for this episode. We made it through another one together.
Hey, we did it.
Go team. We did it.
Amazing job.
Aki, thanks for being here, hanging out with us this whole time, even though you had absolutely nothing to do. Do you have any questions about the Mobius machine before we wrap up? Or do you want to unmute at all, Aki? As we're talking to Aki, who's muted. There you go.
Yeah, I keep pushing it while I'm on the wrong thing.
Too relatable.
Yeah. I kept trying to. I have the button stuff set up to mute and unmute on Discord, but I keep using it when I'm looking at the Twitch, and that just screws up everything instead of unmuting me. So,
GG.
Yeah, I'm a dumbass.
GG.
No, you're a smart ass. No, I don't know.
Well, I'm that too. I'm both. It's a miracle, but I'm both. No, I didn't really have any questions other than, does anyone want to buy it for me?
Womp womp. Hey, that's the smart ass.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Because no, it sounded really good. I really wanted even more than I did prior, which was
Cool.
wanting it. So, that's a problem.
Maybe we'll probably get sale listed pretty soon at least. So expect that.
Hopefully.
That's the nature
And
of
if
the
it
Steam
goes,
machine.
and when it goes on sale, I'll be able to afford it because some of my money problems from last year are finally, well, at least one of them's going to go the fuck away.
Ooh, congrats.
Starting once I get home. So, fuck yeah.
Which you'll be for next episode, right?
Yes. I will be home on Thursday. Yeah.
So in the
Looking
magic,
forward to
home.
through the magic of showtime magic, I guess, you'll disappear and be in a whole new state in just one episode.
Yep. In
Magic.
about 7 hours, I leave to go catch a flight.
Oh, wow.
Well, you have safe travels. This episode is over. We're going to finish the show with some Sonic the Hedgehog because we reviewed Perny's big breakaway, which was made by Christian Whitehead. So, Sonic.
Cool.
Can't take a pen, man.
Sonic. Does anyone have any final words to end the show?
Sonic
Sonic the Hedgehog.